going on YouTube? This is Mike here, and I want to give a special thanks to you guys for getting me past 400. That is so awesome, and I'm really happy that you guys took the time to hit that button and check out my videos. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe, help me out. Let's bring Detroit Sports Alliance to the top so we can combat the mainstream media. Hit that bell icon so you can get notifications when I drop a video. I try to drop at least one a day and or go live, so then you'll know when things go down when it comes to my channel and we can really take it to the next level. With that said, I'd like to jump into my video right now, and so this video is the wide receiver depth and who I believe is going to make the active roster as well as the practice squad. So before I initially jumped into the depth and how I think it's going to jump out, I wanted to look in the past and see how many individuals made the roster when it comes to the wide receiver position. And I've seen a consistent basis from 2016 to 2018 with an influx of 5 depending on injury and moving up from the practice squad. So it's between 5 and 6 is very consistent with those numbers. So with that thinking, I kind of dropped my list going on the fact that this is the kind of routine that they're going with. Before I tell you who I believe will make the practice squad and or roster bubble to the active roster, let's eliminate some individuals right now off the spot. Now there's some individuals that I'm not even going to take the time to talk about. Simply, there's really no reason to. And so the first one would be Andy Jones. Second would be Deontay Alexander, Brandon Riley, Tommy Lee Lewis, and Tom Kennedy. I'm going to go ahead and cut those individuals out of my wide receiver group. I don't think they're going to make the active roster and or I don't believe they're going to take the practice squad. End of that story. Let's jump into the meat and bone of this video. And let's start with the practice squad. Now, the first individual I seen making the practice squad, I have 2 receivers on this list. The first one is Mr. Chris Lacey. Now, if you don't know, Chris Lacey originally started with the New England Patriots. He was an individual that was starting to make noise in their practice squad. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia decided to sign him to the Detroit Lions and see if he can go ahead and try to make this roster. Now, we have heard in camp that Mr. Chris Lacey has done a fairly well job. And since he's done a fairly well job, he's starting to turn heads a little bit. And that's always a good thing because you want to see these young guys start to turn heads and take that next step to the active roster and eventually become an impact for the Detroit Lions. Now, I have more talent ahead of him. With that said, I do believe he makes the practice squad and he can develop into an individual that can take more an active role next year and possibly this year if it comes to injuries. And so I would look for him to be on the team via practice squad. Now, my last individual I have making the practice squad. Now, this one's a very difficult one for me because this can ultimately change to the active roster. He is eligible for 1 more year. He's been on the team for 3 years. You can only go up to 3 years when it comes to the practice squad. And that is Mr. Brandon Powell himself. Now, he made a fairly well impact when it comes to the Detroit Lions last year against the Green Bay Packers specifically. He had 11 receptions for 129 yards, and he was fit into that role of Golden Tate. And now what's interesting about Powell is he does have a chance to make the active roster. And when I see that, he's really competing against other individuals, veterans such as Jermaine Kearse and Danny Amendola. However, I'm going to defer to the fact that they are veterans. Bob Quinn, as well as Matt Patricia, wants to utilize veterans in big game scenarios, such as converting a 3rd down in the 4th quarter, making that important play that wins us a game. I think advantage veterans for that fact. Plus, you have Danny Amendola, who has played with the Patriots before, and Kearse is a veteran, and he played with the Seattle under Darrell Bevell. Now again, this may change due to injury and or if he starts outperforming a Jermaine Kearse in training camp. So we'll see. But right now, I definitely give the advantage to Kearse as well as Amendola in that spot. And since he is similar in that role, I definitely give advantage to the veterans in that scenario. Now, the 5th wide receiver on my list is Mr. Travis Fulgham, number 84. He is a rookie. He's 6'2", and he comes from Old Dominion. Now, he has that build, that specific build that Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn look for when it comes to a wide receiver. Now, 313 JMO and I have talked about this, so I'm going to give him some credit here because this is his boy, that he eventually could replace a Marvin Jones. Now, I don't see him being placed in the practice squad because I think another team would snatch him up. We drafted him for a reason, and I see him developing into a possible receiver to replace Marvin Jones maybe a year or 2 years from now. And he has that build for that. Now, can he develop? That's all on him, and that's on the coaching staff. But I do see him making the active roster simply because he is very talented, and I can see another team picking him off. And knowing our luck, it would be the Green Bay Packers or the Minnesota Vikings or Chicago Bears, and we don't want that to happen, and so I see him making the roster in that sense. Now, next receiver I have is Jermaine Kearse. Now, we know Jermaine Kearse because he played for Seattle Seahawks and the New York Jets, but specifically under Darrell Bevell's offense, and he's number 18. He's been in the years, he's 29 years old, and he's familiar with the offense that we currently are running now. I specifically like him on this team because he knows the offense and he can groom and mentor the younger receivers as other individuals that do not understand the offense as well. So he's a good individual to have in the locker room and help these younger guys and these individuals that may struggle a little bit when it comes to the offense to help them out and take that next step. Now, the next individual I have on this team is an individual who picked up in free agency fairly early, and that is wide receiver Danny Amendola. Now, again, Amendola has been in the league for 11 years. He's 33 years old. He is long in the tooth, but he brings stability in a sense that he's a veteran, and he's been under pressure under the big play, under the lights, in the playoffs, as well as he's familiar with Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn due to his Patriots connection. Now, in camp right now, we're hearing a lot of good aspects when it comes to him and having the connection with Matthew Stafford, so I think it's a no-brainer. He makes the team, and he replaces Golden Tate. Will at least help reduce the pain of Golden Tate being gone and can utilize in that third down situation and those short passes to where he can go ahead and try to make a play with pass after the catch, after receives the ball, try to gain a couple more yards. So that's what I see when it comes to Amendola. Now, as the number 2 receiver, this is no surprise. This is Marvin Jones Jr. He's been on the team for a couple of years now. He's been 8 years in the league, and he has been with us for some time, making big-time plays. Now, he got injured last year, and so that hurt his numbers. And it definitely impacted our offense as Matthew Stafford didn't have a whole lot of options to go to wide receiver. And a lot of people speculated that he will get traded. Now, I don't see that. The reason I don't see that is because we need as much power on offense as possible this year, because Quinn knows he really has to make an impact this year and take this team to the playoffs and win the NFC North. Now, how you do that is not getting rid of your wide receiver Marvin Jones. So I don't see them trading him in that stance. Now, say the year is over and they want to go ahead and move away from Marvin Jones. Now, that goes back to Fulgham as a wide receiver, as we drafted him this year, who could potentially place him in that sense. But again, this year I see him being the number 2 and helping Matthew Stafford take his game to the next level as well as their offense to the next level. Now, obviously, we all know who the number 1 wide receiver for our team is, and that is Kenny Galladay. He is 6'4". He's a beast. He's been on the team for 3 years. He's made such an impact, and I see his impact continuing, solidifying that spot to be the number 1 wide receiver. Now, I think sky's the limit when it comes to Kenny Galladay. I believe he could make the Pro Bowl this year if it goes by statistics and impact on team. Now, we know how the Pro Bowl operates when it comes to popularity contests, so I can't guarantee it will happen in that sense. But when it comes to his impact on a team, his impact on the Detroit Lions, his ability to separate from the defender, I think it's a no-brainer that he is a special player, and he's ultimately going to be a special player for us for years to come. So I see that sky is the limit when it comes to our offense, and when it comes to Kenny Galladay, he is definitely going to be on this team, making a special impact. Now, folks, I truly appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, but I would like to know who you think is going to make the roster. Is there going to be a surprise wide receiver that takes that spot? Is there an individual that feel maybe a veteran jumps out of the active roster? Tell me what you think. Tell me who you think is going to make the roster cuts, who makes the practice squad. Maybe your number is a little bit different than mine. I would love to know. So with that said, folks, I really appreciate you guys taking the time for watching my video, and I'll see you later.